Welcome, episode 5, Hoboken by Impostado and Einstein.
Einstein.
How many
times do I have to tell you that, Anthony?
Come on. It's a long weekend.
That's not his name. It's Andrew.
Einstein. Let's jump right in. How was the weekend?
It was good.
Good. I was in Bethlehem, PA. A little family trip. The whole family went out to Bethlehem, PA. The Bethlehem steel stacks. If you're not familiar, number 2 builder of all of steel in like the 40s and 50s. It's pretty cool. Pretty dynamic. No parking problems in Bethlehem.
No parking problems?
No parking problems.
I'm glad you said Bethlehem, PA twice, because some people might have thought you meant Bethlehem in the Middle East.
Yeah, exactly.
So
no, I wasn't there.
Clarify that.
No passports needed. Jumped in the car, hour and 15 minutes. Nice little weekend trip if anybody's looking. Excited about this episode. We're going to talk about the city council meeting last week, the SID that was approved, the budget, SantaCon last night was SantaCon, and then we're gonna get into some how the city's dealing with these recent road closures for tree trimming and for nonsense of water mains and different things that are going on that are causing headaches across the city. And we got a special guest.
It's true. We
got a special guest. If you want to mention, maybe intro.
Good friend of mine. Matthew Littikainen. He's a pastor at a seed church, which we'll find out more about what that means. It's very interesting stuff. I love how communities function and are born and grow, so it'll be a really fun conversation.
Join with us is Matt, Pastor Matt.
That's it. Yeah, that's a great way to call. Yeah, there you go.
What we like to do is give yourself an opportunity to introduce yourself and tell everyone what you're all about and what you were doing here in Hoboken.
Absolutely. So, I've been in Hoboken for 2.5 years, going on 3, and I met this fine gentleman here. I think it's the first year that I was here, which is great. So thanks for having me on the show. First of all, really appreciate the opportunity. I'm a pastor. I run a historic Orthodox Christian church in progressive Northeast. And that's kind of, why would you do that? Well, that's a great question. Maybe we can get to that. But we run Mile Square Church. We actually just launched the church in October 6th. And we've been doing weekly services ever since then. Before that, we've been doing all sorts of service projects throughout the community, partnering with Hoboken Housing, doing lots of just general outreach, trying to be blessed to be a blessing. We just want to be a positive influence, positive impact in our community. And Hoboken is a place that wasn't home. I'm from the Midwest. My wife and I both, we have a daughter. We're all, Midwest people, and now we've come out to the Northeast. Before we moved here, I hadn't even seen the skyline of Manhattan. So I was just like,
not even in pictures and movies?
Not even, I was very sheltered. No, not at all the case. But, so coming to Hoboken, although there was quite an adjustment period to be had, I really become very fond of the city.
Now, when you said the church is Orthodox, to some people that may make them think of like Russian Orthodox or Greek Orthodox. So what type of particular brand or sect in Christendom is the church? And what's the name of the church? I don't know. If
Mile Square Church, yeah. Launched Mile Square Church October. And when I say orthodoxy, it kind of comes from these roots: orthopraxy, orthodoxy, so right teaching. That's kind of the meaning of that. So we talk about that, the historic Christian faith, the apostolic faith that Jesus taught, that Paul taught, the scriptures, right? So not deviating from that basically rule and norm. And so within the broader family of Christianity, we're Protestant under that umbrella, and then more narrowly we're Lutheran. There's another Lutheran church in town, but of course there are more umbrellas underneath that term. So we're Lutheran Church Missouri Synod. So that is our particular denominational affiliation. Hence name, because the German immigrants came to Missouri. So there you go, little historic fact.
Well, there used to be a lot of German immigrants in Hoboken.
Which is true, absolutely.
And then we kicked them out during before World War I.
That's right.
Because we were sending out all our military stuff, the doughboys, the soldiers from Hoboken to Europe. There was a saying, to heaven, hell, or Hoboken, that they had overseas, and we didn't trust the Germans. So why should people trust you?
That's just well, I'm Finnish. first of all. So there's that. And we're not at war with the Finns, as far as I know. I mean, there's no secret Cold War with the Finns, is there? I mean, you know this. But yeah, so I mean, aside from that, you know, we're a church. Our mission is to be a compelling connection to Christ in the Christian community. What I experienced as I got to know this community, got to know this city, really this region, let's be honest, there's a intense distrust of organized religion, intense distrust of the clergy, and I think that's not without standing. I think there's a lot of reasons that people have a bad taste in their mouth because of religion, because of how the organized church has treated certain groups of people, marginalized groups of people, and that's just. And I would say that our faith as Christians has the resources within itself to be a correction for that. And so we're just trying to be an expression of church that can be sort of a reset button for people, particularly people. I think of, you know, many folks I've talked with have grown up in the Roman Catholic tradition, and there's, you know, I'm not part of that because of, you know, any list of things, any very valid reason, but none of those reasons are because I don't like Jesus. That's not the reason that people offer. I think most people are very, very fond of Jesus, at least as a good moral teacher, but I think that he's something more, and never certainly claimed to be something more, and that's what we're bringing together.
Where do you guys have your services or worship, whatever you call it?
Fantastic question. So, as you know, whatever you call it, worship services.
Worship, yes. And I never know which one's the right term.
No.
And amongst us,
we
Hebrews,
oscillate.
We call it services, so or we call it minyan, which you guys don't understand. So
You're Jewish.
Right. Thank you.
What?
You're Jewish?
Really?
Wait, hold on.
You're like, are you on drugs?
Back up the train.
5 episodes and we just figured that out. Definitely not.
Oh man, I'm glad to here to facilitate that. Yeah, so we meet in the Bow Tie Cinema, as you guys know. Hoboken is not a place. Maybe in yesteryear that might have been the case, where you could find space fairly easily. You could build. You could develop something new. And people always ask me, particularly people from the suburbs, are like, "When are you going to build a church?" I'm like, "We're not." There's another church in town that's been running for 10 years. There's several churches in town, in fact, that started just as we have. And they're all renting. Renting from schools, from other nonprofits, and we're renting from the movie theater. The movie theater in town, Bow Tie Cinemas, and we rent Theater 5. So it's an active movie theater. It's not dead. Obviously, if you've seen a movie in Hoboken, you've gone there. And so we just rent Theater 5, and we pack up everything and bring it in and unfold it. And, you know, it's set up, tear down every single Sunday. We make it happen, and it's a wild ride, but we get it done.
What type of attendance do we get each week?
We have like a circle of influence. It's pretty broad. We have like 600 people in our contact. I mean, I've just been networking like crazy. And so we're building. We've been building, and we have like 50 people on our team, and we're able to draw a crowd consistently every Sunday. Yeah.
Now you mentioned Columbus. You mentioned the Hoboken Housing Authority, which I know Andrew is on the board of. What do you do with them?
So in early 2018, I was approached by, just in my random ramblings throughout town, I met Danny Perez, who is the director of resident services at Hoboken Housing, and as I came to find out and continue to find out more, because of how Hoboken Housing is structured, like just geographically, they have a lot of attention focused on the downtown locations, you know, Adams and Jackson, 221, 220. And all those places have a lot of events, a lot of programming developed, but they never have anything going on uptown. And so they were looking at the time for partner organizations that could come and just be a help and a hero to them. Like, would you put on something? He's like, you should adopt CCG, which is Christopher Columbus Gardens on 455 9th Street, and on 8th Street, the building down there. And I was like, whoa, I don't know. We don't even have like services. Like, I don't know. But we kind of prayed about it, considered, and we ended up committing. And so every single month, on the second Saturday of every month, we just do, in the summer times, we have some barbecues. We have neighborhood barbecues. The whole neighborhood's invited, but specifically for the residents there. And then over the winter months, when it's too cold to grill, although some may be more inclined to grill than others.
I think grilling in the winter is fun.
Yes. But many do not think that. So we haven't been type so we've been
You're in the
doing
minority there.
little potluck.
Well, if you're on the if you're the person grilling, you're warm.
The only person.
Right,
people
yeah, you're
waiting,
just kind of
then,
warming your hands
you know,
over the coals.
Right.
But so we've been doing potlucks. We had our first Thanksgiving dinner potluck neighborhood. The whole neighborhood's welcoming. We go in the community room and we have ourselves a dinner. We had a very nice dinner. It was, and so we're just planning to continue doing that, and it's been really cool meeting the lifers. You know, these are people who've called Hoboken home for generations.
We recently at the Hoboken Housing Authority opened up a $10,000 fund to seed nonprofits. So there's
That's great.
There's an application process where you can apply for. Nonprofits can come in, and it's all about programming for youth. So whether it's a nonprofit that does football or sports, or it does computer programming, or family services, church, whatever the case, you can apply for it. And we'd love to have applications like yourself.
Great.
So we're looking forward to getting all the information to you for that.
Where do I sign? Yeah, absolutely.
We'll be given, I think, anywhere from a couple $100 to $2,500 as seed money for programs to come in and utilize and activate our youth
That's
as much
great.
as possible. So that's just a quick side piece on that. So what we'll do is we'll chop it up here. We'll get more into what you're doing here in the city and what your experiences are with running your organization and how some of the things, both policy and politics, come into play. Last week was a city council meeting that took place on Wednesday, and one of the big topics was the special improvement district and the nonprofit board that has now been created called the Hoboken Business Alliance. And it has its own board members. There are two, I believe, Tiffany Fisher, Councilwoman Fisher's on it. I think she's the only council person on it. And then local business leaders are on that board as well. The idea behind this is they're going to have a 1.3 and change budget for this next fiscal year in 2020 to spend to improve local business, to improve whatever the case may be, anything from paintings, murals, parking issues, whatever the case, lamp posts. They're going to try to make. I'm trying to describe it. As I'm trying, it sounds even more of a interesting thing. But supposedly, this enhances business in other cities when it's been run. And the idea here is to do that here in Hoboken. That we need a revitalization of the local market, of the city. It's getting old. It's getting decaying. It needs a fresh reboot, and this is what this money is supposedly for. I'm sure, Josh, you can talk a little bit about where the money comes from, and who's paying into this.
Well, first and foremost, it shouldn't be called the Hoboken Business Alliance. It should be called the Hoboken BS Alliance, because from top to bottom, the whole scheme is just a bunch of baloney. In other cities, when they do special improvement districts, it's not the entire town. Mm-hmm. This is when we look to our wise elders and our honorable women and men that represent us in the city council, this is an abdication of their responsibility and an admittance, tacit maybe that it is, that they have completely failed when it's come to the commercial and business climate in our town. Because here they are saying the entire town needs some sort of special rule, special injection of cash to make commercial businesses work here. And there was a time when commercial businesses did work here, and then city council put its tentacles into absolutely everything, giving a hard time for businesses to be able to build the awnage that goes over them, that says their name, what type of signs they put in their window, what percentage of their window is signs, whether there's a turnover or change in use for the commercial space. Unless they're in the central business district, they have to get permission to change the use. So let's say it's a restaurant, right, and then it's empty, the restaurant closes, and someone wants to use it for a clothing shop. They essentially have to go, beg for permission from City Hall. And all these things are ridiculous. So when the Hoboken business owners say that there's so much regulatory red tape and extra costs to make a business in this town versus other places, they're 100% correct. And that needs to be reformed. And the people that we have on council are not going to reform it. But for some, not all, but for some of these business owners who have been bent over a barrel by City Hall to then go and try to cozy up to City Hall and ask them for some of the same abuse of powers that they've been abused with by City Hall, to be able to do that to other people is just, it's unconscionable, and it's immoral, because they are, it's not like City Hall was saying, hey, this has been our responsibility, we've messed this up, here's a portion of the budget, we're going to trim down where we spend other money. The same way, like if any of us here had an unexpected cost, or we realized we weren't budgeting enough for something in our lives, whether it was medical or maybe healthier food or something to that effect, we would figure out how to do it in our budget. We wouldn't just try to take other people's money and force them to pay for it. And that's what the HBA is doing, and that's what the City Council did when they voted for this. They said, commercial, industrial, and residential places that were 5 units or more, all right, had to pay an extra tax.
And that tax can either be paid for by the landlord or passed on to the tenant.
Well, in buildings that are buildings that are rent controlled, like a lot of the old housing stock that was built before the 1970s, that is rent controlled, and the landlord can't pass that on, that tax increase, they cannot pass on to their tenant, because it's not related to a property tax revaluation.
Right, but if a commercial unit, for example, let's say Qdoba on Washington Street is in a residential building with 5 more units, that landlord, the building owner, can pass that on to Qdoba, the commercial unit.
Yeah, five or under.
Right,
yeah.
5 or under.
So it's going to end up with first of all, it's very arbitrary, and in deciding that, well, X amount of units benefits from the funds that we're going to spend, and anything X minus 1 doesn't benefit. It's completely arbitrary. It's completely illogical. It's discriminatory.
Yeah.
There will be lawsuits. There'll at least be one. There'll probably be more. Maybe there'll even be a class action lawsuit against this, because there's no logical argument, and the HBA at the meeting did not present, nor did the vast majority of our city council members present a logical argument for why residential buildings should have to pay an extra fee, why people should be taxed more, so that business owners can be given this money that didn't exist in the city coffers before. Like, if this is something that the HBA is doing now, and the city alleges that it was supposed to be doing before, why not take the money that the city was supposed to be using for this and give that to the HBA? That would be a tolerable situation. But this is an extra tax, an extra cost of living increase, and they pretend that it's for everyone's benefit. No, it's for the benefit of the business community. I don't think the way you grow the business community in town, that you grow commercial spaces and you add value to town, is to raise taxes on people. It's to find the inefficiencies, which are numerous and plethora in our city hall, and kill them. All right, I mean, get rid of them. Kill the inefficiencies. Don't kill people. All right, kill the inefficiencies to make life easier for the business owner. For us to say we're a special improvement district, it's not like we're Newark. There's no area of Hoboken that's a crap hole. We have at least according to the 2010 census, the median income in Hoboken was 70 G's. So this isn't a depressed, economically backwards area in need of improvement. Town has arrived. We're up there. We're living high on the hog. And the reason that our businesses are suffering is because City Hall let it get to their head that over the years, that nothing they could do while Hoboken was on its rise would stop that. And now it's begun to mess with the businesses for years now. And so they're looking at what Jersey City is doing and other places are doing, but those places were starting at a place that were economically depressed. Those areas that are special improvement districts in Jersey City were not economically doing well beforehand. and now we're gonna raise people's cost of living. We're gonna pass the cost to pilot buildings. It's unconscionable. And the only person that stood up at the council meeting of the council members was Councilman Russo, who was making the points that how does this parking spot that now is going to cost more money, how does that benefit?
He wants it. He just doesn't want it for the third ward.
Oh yeah, and he explicitly said that.
Yeah, he just simply doesn't. He's a third ward councilman, and pretty much said, I'm all for it, just not in the third ward.
Well, I think his point was that it shouldn't exist across the entire town. Other SIDs don't exist across an entire town.
Yeah.
And that he was brutally honest, both in his line of questioning and also in explicitly saying, I could tolerate this if it wasn't in the third ward.
Right.
But the reality is that it's raising taxes on people. You can't cut me with a knife and then hand me a Band-Aid at the same time, and say you're doing me a favor.
Yeah, and the defense, just playing devil's advocate, the defense was that if the entire city is going to reap the benefits of this SID, then the entire city must pay into it. And that's just, I'm not saying I'm for or against it, but that's what the defense was and what they were saying.
Oh, and it doesn't hold water though, because it's not the entire city that's paying for it.
Well,
only buildings with 5 or more residential units, in terms of the residences, right, are paying for it. And the danger here, well, A, that's just not fair off the bat. But B, the danger here is we're going to see eventually it's going to creep, and it's going to be buildings with less units, and then it's going to be everybody. This is a way to tax everybody to help business owners that want a little bit of that government monopoly of power, that have been abused by City Hall and that now want to get high on City Hall supply. And that's not right. The solution is to get City Hall out of people's lives more, because it's stalling the growth of businesses on the avenue and other places in town. It's not, or just possibly to expand, the city, the central business district. Why should a business on Washington Street be regulated differently and have an easier way, have less regulatory burden than a business that's on Monroe Street? There's no difference between the two. If it's a restaurant, if it's a clothing store, yet the one that's not on Washington Street has to, essentially pay more taxes. It's not technically taxes, but if they have to go before the planning board or the zoning board more often, then it's essentially a tax because it costs them money to do so. When it's the same, it's the same stuff, just in a different place.
I mean, what we do here in the city is we try to duplicate what other cities are doing. And what people don't understand is that this city is so small, right? So like, for example, I'm in Bethlehem this past weekend, and they have like an arts district. And 10 years ago, the gentleman was explaining that they had a special improvement to that arts district. But the city of Bethlehem is 25 miles, right? So in order to get people from one area of the town to the other area of the town that is not close, right, not walking distance, they special in district and they improved everything. So now it flourished, right? You pour money into something and more people will come. In Hoboken, it doesn't work, right? 8th Street and North on Washington is not considered our business district, which makes no sense to me. To your point before, where if a dentist closed on 9th Street in Washington, there has to be another dentist or something similar that takes its place, where a coffee shop can't get in there, right? If it did, it had to approve and has to get a special improvement. So I'm not, look, if they come out, I'm going to give them a chance to see what they can do. I'm not totally against this right now. I want to see, I talked to Eugene Flynn, who is on he's the director, or he's the president of the board. He's got some interesting ideas. One of those ideas is, they want to try to pay for and plan special concerts on the pier. Like we had Bon Jovi, I believe, 8 years ago, which flooded this area in this city with thousands of people. Stuff like that is interesting. The more eyes and the more things that we can do in the city to get people here, that then pass it on to other businesses and things that flourish. I don't know though. I'm not on your side yet. It seems like you're very passionate about this, so it's interesting to hear your input. I hear it.
Well, why can't the Cultural Affairs Department of the city do that? I mean, on the one side in this whole thing,
Well, they're too busy planning our arts festival and our unbelievable music festival, Josh.
I mean,
That brings out nobody.
I love our street fairs, but
It's the same boring festival every single year.
with many of the same vendors, no doubt.
Do you know we have one person at City Hall?
Yeah, Jerry Fowler.
Jerry Fowler.
Very nice person.
Very nice person. In charge of our, I think your term was cultural affairs.
Yeah, I
That's
believe
the department.
name of the
That's
department.
it. That's it.
So,
So,
We get a
But-
table
but-
every year.
clearly
But
that's
the issue
lacking.
is that they raise taxes on people to do this. It wasn't the business owners being like, and
Well,
the
my-
developers
I
being
own
like,
a property.
hey,
My taxes
let's
aren't going
take.
to our taxes are not going to go up for this.
So because it doesn't happen to you, it's okay?
No.
That's
Well,
cool. I'm gonna break into your
No.
neighbor's house. No, I'm gonna break into your house,
No.
and then I'm gonna get your
You-
neighbor's approval.
You said
that's the logic.
You said
that you
taxes
just said.
on everyone.
You said it doesn't have. I said,
right?
I don't know if I said everyone.
Yeah, you said
hold
everyone.
on.
You might have said that. Blow the
The
whistle.
referee is
Might have been.
biased. I'm Jewish.
That's all I'm
He's
saying.
not biased. We're biased.
That's
here.
all I'm saying.
Two Christians against one Jew. I call it anti-Semitism. All right.
So I agree. Look, it's not everyone. I'm not going to get affected.
Well,
a lot of people
it
that
will be
own-
everyone eventually.
Well, we'll have to see. But I'm going to give it a chance. That's my.
But here's the thing: you brought up Mr. Flynn, and at the meeting, and people watch this. Mr. Flynn was asked. He responded when Councilman Russo made the solid point that property owners, if they can, if they're not in a pilot building, will pass on the increase in rent to the renters.
Right.
And it was complete hubris for Mr. Flynn to say, "How do you know that? You're assuming that." Now, from what I understand, he used to be a business owner. I think he owned Amanda's and Elysian. I believe so.
And he still owns like 4 or 5 buildings.
Yeah, and
Residential.
you know what? If the costs go up for a business, their prices go up. So it was completely ridiculous for them to say, "Oh, you're just making an assumption." It's an assumption based on all of human recorded history that if my prices go up and I'm providing a good or service for you, guess what? The prices for you will also go up.
AKA inflation, right?
It's their whole from top to bottom. It was ridiculous. A lot of the people involved in the HBA, have a lot of shekels. They have a lot of money. If they want to spend this money, their own money, on improving the marketing for Hoboken's business community, and if they want to donate some of that to beautifying the street, that's fine. But to use their political power, all right, to get City Hall to give them the power to take other people's money, take money out of your wallet, out of your pocket, that's some expletive stuff.
That's going to be the debate, and it will play out and see. And if it becomes a waste, then you're going to see a lot of people up in arms about it.
Oh, if it becomes a waste, it'll keep on going. That's what City Hall does. I mean, we've talked about the budget before. There's so much waste in there. I mean, but when we ran, we talked about the budget.
Well, we see it now. Last episode, we talked about the bump outs, and think about the cost on Washington Street of all the bump outs on every corner, and now the bump outs that are happening everywhere across the city. I think the plan is to have a bump out on every corner. So if you add up all that cost, it probably comes out to close to 1.3 million. So instead of all the bump outs,
It's got to be more.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. But I'm just for this year alone.
And then there'll be bump out repair. There's nothing so immortal as a government program. I mean, maybe Matt would argue God is immortal and our souls, right?
I would do that.
How does it affect? How do you see this? Do you see the SID affecting or helping the nonprofits?
Oh man, that's a great question. I mean,
Too early to tell.
Honestly, too early to tell. For me, speaking from probably my vantage point as a church leader, I don't know if that. I mean, I know there's a lot of new development happening in northern Hoboken, and my wife and I were just talking about this. I mean, there's a Boy is opening a new location literally across the street from the cinema. There's the new new park Boy, or some people call it BWE, the Boy Cafe on 10th.
The people that call it BWE are wrong.
That's true. That is true. Thank you.
That's our third in Hudson County, second in Hoboken.
That's right. Yeah. So there's a lot happening. I mean, but I think I would side with you. It's too soon to tell exactly what this would do. I have questions about it. I mean, I'm not as I'm very temperate, very moderate. I'm kind of willing to let things play out. I see the points you're making.
It was conceived in sin, to put it in like pseudo-religious language.
All
for
right.
you, or that isn't fair as well, that you may have an opinion on, are all the people
Please.
that throw up while they're dressed as Santa in front of people's kids.
Right.
So you both have kids.
That's provocative.
You both have
Last
kids.
night-
We're talking about SantaCon.
Last night was SantaCon here in Hoboken and across the country. Bethlehem had a bunch of people out dressed as Santa. We had, according to Chief Ferrante's Twitter page, 8 arrests, 20 hospitalized for one reason or another, and over 500 calls made to the
Now,
police.
since both of you,
Good for Hoboken, bad for Hoboken.
since both of you are Christians, were either one of you dressed as Santa Claus?
I was not.
No,
No,
no.
I swear, I did not. No, what am I doing?
He was.
Hold on.
He crossed his fingers. He was dressed as a Santa.
Anyone listening to the audio, that didn't happen.
I think the biggest debate here is whether or not our local bars should be paying for the extra added expenses that this thing brings. That's really all we're talking about.
Well, something that Chief Ferrante posted on his Twitter feed was, because the entire idea, this is for charity, right? This is supposed to raise money for some. I don't know
Really?
the background.
I didn't know.
It's supposed to be for some sort of fundraiser.
So who runs the? Is
money
there an
gets
event
kicked
that
back.
runs it?
I believe the
Not-
real Santa actually runs it.
Yes.
It funds his.
Yeah.
his
So we'll have to
technology.
fact check it, but that's something that Ferrante referenced.
Fake news.
That this is for some sort of charitable cause, that money is being kicked to somebody. I don't know from whom or how that's supposed to be, but
I
it's.
don't understand.
Probably
I
the
think
Hoboken
from the
Business
bars.
Alliance is stealing the money.
Are the bars?
Just kidding.
I
That
think
was
the
just a
bars
joke.
are
added
somehow
revenue
involved.
or
It's
kicking
like
back
this,
some of that.
like this like a bar crawl for, because like I mean
Well,
like
did they encourage everyone to bring a gift?
something that
Which
yeah
I'm pretty sure.
yeah that was
like,
one of the
0
things.
people did.
Yeah, bringing gifts and a monetary donation for whatever the organization they're supporting.
So I did see
I don't
a
think
couple
anyone did
business
that.
owners. A couple business owners came out and said, why are we making our businesses and our bars pay extra into this fund that's going to pay for the extra police and people that are needed. New York City doesn't do it. They have bar crawls every single weekend. There's no reason why we need this business. We shouldn't be kicking back more money just so you can police it. It's kind of crazy. I don't agree that our police department needs to have the added stress for people just to get intoxicated and have a good time. I mean, I don't know. It doesn't.
I don't know. I mean, dividing the morality of the thing. I'm not, as a Christian pastor, I am not advocating that you go and get intoxicated
what a great
every weekend.
dynamic here.
Like,
You heard it here, Pastor Matt.
Pastor
dress
Matt
up like
is-
Santa
like,
Claus
in the middle,
every weekend.
perfectly
They
positioned
get sloshed.
between a
There we
conservative
go.
Republican
Who
and
is a secular Jew? All right.
there we go.
and
Wow.
and a Democratic.
Are you sure? You just said Republican.
No,
You're
Democratic.
Libertarian? Green
No,
Party?
No,
There's a shift taking place in the
progressive
room.
Democratic Catholic. Like
There we
perfectly
go.
positioned right in the middle.
Yeah.
A little more to my
So
side.
cafeteria Catholic?
No,
Just teasing.
you know what? I need to get out more.
I need to get out more, he says.
I need to make some more home games. Let's jump in and more about what you're doing here in Hoboken, what you've seen growing up, where you grew up in the Midwest, and how, what the dynamic of Hoboken is, and how it allows you or doesn't allow you to do certain things that make your organization thrive here.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in church through my whole life. I grew up in a Missouri Synod congregation. There's a pastor out in Manhattan. He named Tim Keller, and he describes cities and the suburb in this way. Suburb, both are like pizzas, right? So you have in the urban life, it is a pizza. You have the dough, the crust, they have the cheese, the sauce, the toppings, everything's there. Like it's all in there. But the suburbs, everything's kind of, you get the cheeses over here and the toppings over there, the sauce is here, and so they have the recipe, you have the ingredients, but you don't have the pizza. And so that's kind of, and that really shifts how you contextualize ministry, and that impacts certainly more than just my line of work and my ministry. It affects business. It affects There's in so much of the conventional church planting, the church startup wisdom is, where is the place you're going to find for your venue? Is there going to be enough parking spots? I'm like, I'm not worried about that, right? Is a nominal concern, sure, but my hope is that there are people who are going to walk to church. That's just going to be there, and it's in the neighborhood. They're going to walk, and so there's a lot of things from parking, from just the accessibility of the community, whether it's business, whether it's nearby municipalities. It shifts how we think about where we're reaching. How far are people willing to drive in the suburbs? It's not uncommon, and particularly in the Midwest, not uncommon. There are people who are members of my home church. They drove like an hour to come to service, and that's like, yeah, of course you drive an hour. That's just that's how long it takes. And that's not a similar expectation here. I don't think people are as willing. One of the general rule of thumb I'd heard was that people are willing to drive to church as long as they're willing to drive to work. So if your commute's like 90 minutes, you're willing to drive. That's not. I don't think that is the case at all here. Like, no way. So there's a lot of shifting, a lot of calibration that needs to take place, and that's just like the surface level stuff. There's cultural and kind of sociological concerns to take into account.
How creative do you have to be? I mean, obviously, doing your service in a movie theater, is that because of the Hoboken? You have to get creative, right?
Sure.
You have to stretch outside the box and be resourceful. And where did that idea come from? How did you get to that spot? And what are talk a little bit about that.
Absolutely, yeah. No, when I share that the fact we meet in a movie theater, it gets a lot of positive feedback.
Yeah.
That's very incredibly creative. I mean, of course, as soon as you begin to think about that. My coach, in fact, he planted a church in Knoxville, Tennessee. He came out here to Ridgewood, New Jersey, and he started a church in a theater. There's a number of churches. Actually, the AMC, big theater chain, right? They actually have a designated salesperson that reaches out to churches and will relate to. I have another coach who's in Manhattan, and they rent an AMC theater, and
you have to pay for it.
Oh yeah.
So for a movie theater, it's a really good.
Yeah, it's great revenue on a time when you're dark.
Seats filled.
Certainly not on a Sunday morning.
Might as well rent it out.
Well, listen, Hudson County went from in the 13 years that I've been here. Went from 8 movie theaters to 3, so anything they can do,
sure.
Even
and they're family owned. Even both sides family owned, right?
Shady people like this guy.
I'm not sure about its ownership.
I think this branch is family owned.
I know the building's owned by Bijou,
but there is a family that owns this franchise.
So you were talking about pizza, but you do admit that we have the best pizza here, and the rest of the country has no pizza.
Lord, yes. Praise Jesus. Absolutely. Yeah, no, it's so good here.
Is that the real reason that you moved to Hoboken, for the better pizza?
I can neither confirm nor deny that. No, I mean, my family's come here, and they're like, we order a pie. We get Mario's a lot. And that's like our go-to spot. And so you just like plain classic margarita, and my family they're like, this is incredible. I'm like, I know. I just don't know what to tell you. Like, going back home, everything's like Domino's and Pizza Hut, or like nothing's comparable. It's all right, sometimes you need that greasy food fest. But
so what are some of the challenges in the city that is just growing the database, getting more people there?
Yeah, I mean, it's a general cultural mood. I do a lot of reading and do a lot of a lot of continuing ed, just continuously navigating the cultural landscape. And our cultural moment right now is it's a secular age, secular mood. Not secular in the sense of like a government that's like theocratic. That's not what we're talking about. But secular as in people operating from a largely materialistic, science-based worldview, where it's what if I can see, touch, taste, and smell it, and test it in a lab? That's what's real. That's what's true. It's kind of shifting a little bit into a postmodern view of things, where your truth is not my truth, but we can live in truths abound, narratives abound, and it's just kind of let's live and let live. And so navigating that, we have two of these kind of cultural moods that are pretty much dominating the landscape right now. And I'm advocating for a God who no one can prove. There's no definitive proof for the existence of an almighty God. And even we confess that Jesus is the incarnation of God, and he is, God in flesh, and he made demonstrable proofs to that, that's not something you can't bring him into the room and let's have an interview. You can't do that anymore. So that's we're talking about an immaterial reality, right? So it can't be tested. And then on top of that, we're saying this is an ultimate truth. We're saying that this is the way. Jesus says, "I'm the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me." Who are you to say that there is no way to God except through Jesus? So that's just a mood, and so this is a mood that people have, that the basic historic truths of Christianity offend the sensibilities of the secular person.
If anybody's listening that might go to any type of Catholic church in Hoboken, that maybe this is a different view, talking points. This is a different service that they might want to get involved with.
Yeah. So, and that what I would say to anybody that grew up in
your Catholic church, I don't think.
Right, and that's kind of the thought is I grew up Catholic, or I am Catholic, however that means, whether it's Christmas and Easter, you attend Mass or not, that there's a very strong identity of being Catholic, or maybe a very strong identity of being Episcopalian, or whatever it might be. And it's you're what denomination are you? Oh, that's not me, so I can't go, or sure, I can understand that to a certain degree, but I think that's just I intentionally left the denominational title out of our name, which is Mile Square Church, because I wanted to avoid that simple barrier. So my posture, my hope is that people from all different kinds of backgrounds, even non-Christian backgrounds, can feel like they can come into this space, ask their questions, seek their purpose, and really, and we've been talking, I'm talking very candidly right now with you and Josh about how, the kind of culture that we are in right now, and we have a thing in our service, and we can text in questions. So during the message, why do you commune this way? Why do you pray this way, right? Text about it. I was just talking with someone who's a realtor, and she says, we just want to create a space for those silly little questions. I'm that's exactly it. That's what we want.
Walk me through a typical service, 1 hour?
Yeah, 1 hour, usually a tight 1 hour. So, and if those who are Catholic, there's a strong similarity there. Lutherans have jokingly been called. We're on the more progressive end in terms of how closely we maintain the liturgy. But if Lutherans have been called Catholic light, other Protestant denominations have as well. But so we have opening song, welcome everyone, have some more songs and singing. And then a time of confessing of the creed, whether it's apostles or Nicene or whatever it may be, and we'll step into time of scripture reading, and then I'll have a 25-minute message or so.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, and then after the message, offering and some announcements, kind of stuff, what's going on in the community, and then we pray, and every other week we'll have the Lord's Supper. We'll have the sacrament, and then we're out. We have a time of question and response at the very end, and then blessing. And
that's great. I guess we'll wrap it up and let you just kind of let people know how can local businesses, how can local residents help your mission. You're a nonprofit. Obviously, you get donations, right? You need money to keep it going. Walk through how people can help. How can we help? And how can we, get your mission accomplished?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, word of mouth is one of the greatest assets. You can spend all this money on Facebook advertisements, Google ads, all this stuff, but the best marketing tool in the hands of anybody, whether a nonprofit, business, or church, is a person telling another friend, what about this church that I just heard about, and man, we should check it out. So that kind of word of mouth sharing. So being here on the podcast, this is just fantastic. So appreciate the opportunity. So that's one thing, just sharing about it. If you'd want to support, you're certainly welcome to do so.
Do you have a fundraiser?
We have a giving platform. You can go on our website, milesquare.church, any web browser. And
Milesquare.church. We'll put that up on the...
Yeah. And then you just tap the, if you're going on mobile, the 3 bars, and just drop down. And you also can look at our website, kind of get a feel for who we are a bit more. And we live stream our services every Sunday. So,
and you don't have to pay for that, though.
Don't have to pay for that. That's a service that's provided by YouTube. So we just, pop up a camera there and stream the services.
Back and watch?
You can go back and watch the services. You can go watch, if you don't want to watch the whole thing, you can find the sermon that's been extrapolated from that and watch that.
Very
so you're able to see all of our media on our YouTube page. Yep.
Very nice.
Yeah. And coming out, come and visit. If you want to check it out, if you've been looking for a home church, I invite you to come. We really are creating a place where it's safe to ask questions and seek purpose. And so if that's something that it's describing a felt need that you have, doors open.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, appreciate
Thank you.
Really it's always good
appreciate
to have
you guys. Thank you.
New aspect and new view. All right, so great episode. Great
good time.
Great
Good
chatting with
conversation.
you. Awesome guest. I thought Matt brought a different feel. That's what this is all about.
He was really good. He's a little bit too tall, though.
He's very tall, and he's wearing the Michigan State thing, and he didn't even go there, so that was a little confusing.
Oh, I thought maybe that was a prison thing, like Michigan State prison.
That's a sports team.
It's a sports thing?
Yeah, it's sports. It's a
Okay.
college.
More you know.
Top 10 college basketball program.
Cool.
All right. So then, congratulations. I saw you put yourself in the name for Republican Hoboken chair.
Hudson County chair. Hudson
County chair. Let's go. Okay.
So we need,
What do we got?
for years, for over a decade, the Republican Party in Hudson County has been a paper fiction. It's been an adjunct of the local Democratic Party. And even if you're not a Republican, you need to recognize, or many people recognize, that you need at least 2 parties in order. I mean, ideally we'd have more than 2 parties, right? But you need at least 2 parties to have a healthy political system. Because when one party rules unchallenged, they're missing an extra set of institutional eyes that's holding them accountable, that's watching what they do. And all the politics become internal. So you have all these different warring factions of Democrats that, they'll hold each other to account a little bit, but in the main, they recognize that they're on the same team. So it's not the same dynamic. The voter, the taxpayer, the resident gets gypped because cost of living increases that happen when you have a one-party rule. And then for we Republicans, it's not right that we don't have a voice. There's something around 30,000 Republicans in Hudson County, and there's no voice for them.
So the person right now is not doing a good job.
Oh, I mean, he's been there for at least 15 years.
Okay.
And
stale.
He's never done anything. His job has always been to work for the Democrats to make sure no Republican that can actually get elected actually gets elected. And it's time for that to be over. I'm all about the big tent. Having as inclusive a party. Ronald Reagan used to say, if someone disagrees with you 20% of the time, they're not a 20% traitor. So I think, obviously, like, there's different types of Republicans. I'm more conservative than many other Republicans, and that's okay. But we need, as a team, to build. You love sports. You'll love this one. All right.
You have one.
Yeah,
Wow.
I have one. They call it a farm team in baseball, right?
Yes.
So you need to grow the farm team so that we can start running people for
the majors.
more for the majors. Yes, for more significant races. And so it means we need to start supporting BOE candidates and school board candidates, even though these races are technically nonpartisan. The Democrats don't play that way. So why should it wait? This has been an excuse used by the current, Republican chairman to say, well, we don't get involved in these things. Yet when we look at the last Board of Education race in Jersey City, the current Republican chairman spent GOP funds supporting the Board of Ed slate that was all Democrats backed by Mayor Fulop. That included someone that has trash talk Republicans on the record, not just trash talk Republicans, but said horrible things about an entire sect of Christians.
Okay.
And that's bigotry. And the Republican Party chairman supported that bigotry because that bigotry was being supported by Mayor Fulop. and that's not okay.
Okay, so it's
that
good.
has to change.
So we're trying to get this guy out.
The era and error of Republicans in Hudson County working for Democrats is coming to an end.
Okay, how do we get you? What's the next steps here?
So there's a lot of steps along the way. Elections will be in June, but the next step right now is Monday the 16th. December 16th at 7 p.m. at Mulligan's. We're having a launch party.
Got it.
It's going to be a good time. There'll be some beer. There'll be some appetizers. And
what's the cost to attend?
Oh, there's no cost.
Oh,
there's
great.
no cost.
If it's free, it's for me.
Yeah, so then you should come on down and then think about maybe
Switching parties.
challenging those democratic orthodoxies. That's what we can do in Hudson County. We can provide the voter and the taxpayer a different alternative.
Cool. So December 16th, come on out. Josh Einstein,
Mulligan's, Einstein, 7 p.m.
Josh Einstein, Mulligan's, Sotomayor is going to get the Hudson County Republican chair. Awesome. Thanks for watching. Tune in next. We're going to be filming Friday. Any questions? If you're a business owner, we've got a couple people on the agenda for next week. A couple business owners
Up on bat.
They're going to talk about the SID, talk about what it's like to own a business here in Hoboken. For Josh, my name is Andrew. Thanks for watching.